Jason Tremblay, and I'm making this video to give you a tour of the Strength Guides athlete management system, which is the first version that is for sale. To give you some history on the athlete management system, it's a system which was designed 4 years ago for our own coaching practice here at the Strength Guides, where we were working with powerlifters, bodybuilders, and athletes who required strength and conditioning in order to perform and stay healthy in their sports. So, our athlete management system is uniquely designed. There's nothing else like it on the market because it was inspired by our own working processes. Over time, I've now built six of them, and each one has improved on errors and any workflow processes that need an improvement over the course of time. So what we've arrived at is a refined product that works exclusively in Microsoft Excel. It's recommended that you have Microsoft Excel 2016 or 365 to operate it. And the reason why we decided to go the route of Microsoft Excel and not an app is because once an app is designed, it tends to be quite rigid in who can make changes and from the perspective of a coach or a business owner, how much it's going to cost to make those changes and how long it's going to take. It is more common for people to be proficient at operating Microsoft Excel, especially in the field of strength and conditioning, than it is to have the knowledge and wherewithal of how to change a web app in order to suit what's necessary. So we chose Excel because it's an affordable software solution and people are generally educated in how it works. So that will cut down on the price you're spending up front, and it will also allow us to come in and fix things or make changes for you if necessary, which comes with the 1 year technical license, or it will allow you to modify, and even if you want to type notes, for example, off to the side and save that in the document for some reason, you can do that. In a web app, such isn't a possibility. So we have a number of different sheets here. The first sheet is the setup. Now, the setup is going to ask you simple questions related to, first off, what are the athlete details? So, say my name is Jason Tremblay. My sport is professional hockey. Say that I am working with the Calgary Flames. My start date is going to be August 12th, and my end date, let's say, is going to be January 1st of 2020. Once I've done that, a title page will generate itself. Now you can click print, and if you're working with clients on the floor, you could make this title page the cover of a clear front duotang. Now the benefit of that is that folders won't get lost when you're coaching large groups on the floor. Athletes will be able to quickly identify where their name is on the folder, pick it up, and it'll help you stay organized as a staff. We used this system when I interned at Unbreakable Performance Center with NFL, UFC, NHL, boxing athletes, and European soccer players. So we had large groups, and we used this system of named client duotangs with a title page, which is what this document is, in order to keep everything organized when we had 10 to 15 athletes training, each with their programs out on the floor with them. Now, the next thing you do in the setup is you set up which lifts you want to monitor. Okay, these lifts can be anything. You can change this to clean. You can change this to Romanian deadlift. You're free to change any of these movements in primary monitoring, which are movements that you're going to prescribe off of a percentage of a 1 rep maximum. So The condition for primary monitoring is that you want to know what your 1 rep maximum is. Now, for secondary monitoring, these are still lifts that you're going to be monitoring closely and on an individual basis, but you are not going to prescribe them off of a 1 rep max. So instead, you're going to use RPE in order to gauge the level of difficulty. So you can list these movements here, and again, you could change them to whatever you like. And then finally, in order to monitor things like movement sessions and plyometric contacts and even practice time or game time in sports, you can change these to whatever you like. In our athlete management system, when we're working with bodybuilders, we will sometimes go, let's say this is lats, this is pectorals, this is deltoids, and this is biceps, triceps, so on and so forth. And we'll turn these categories into the muscle groups. That way I could track volume per muscle group. If you are working in strength and conditioning, you may want to track it for movement patterns, right? So as an example, in hockey, it may be of interest for us to track, instead of purely agility, we might want to track lateral intensive lower body change of direction exercises, right? So push to base, shuffle, stuff like this. We can track that now, or we could change it back to agility. Another option that you have here is you could track categories of movement. So for example, upper pull, lower push. You could do upper vertical pull, upper horizontal pull, and then you can categorize your movements that way. You have the choice on how to do it. Now, to tie all the primary, secondary, and tertiary monitoring together, you go to the exercise index. And any exercise that I type under squat, so for example, pause squat, or squat with iso at bottom, we'll track based off of the squat 1 rep max that we write in, which I'll cover next, and it will track towards the squat volume, number of lifts, and the intensity at which you're training that movement. In the secondary lift analysis, let's say that I'm doing landmine press, half kneeling. This will track as an overhead press movement, or DB shoulder press, 1 arm standing. Now that will track as a shoulder press movement. So you can categorize all like-minded movements within one category, so that you're tracking press volume. If we're working in hockey, you may want to track split squat volume. So you would make that a category. Let's say split squat, and then you'd say DB split squat. You could track a skater squat. You could do a rear foot elevated split squat or a front foot elevated split squat, and all of this will track for you. Now, for the tertiary monitoring, we've already populated each category with some examples based on what we think. So again, you could just come in and populate your drills, and they will now count and track for each appropriate category. The next component of the setup screen is setting up your athlete log. So when I'm filling out the athlete log, say that I weighed 181 pounds today. My sleep was 7 to 8 hours. My hydration is about a 3. I'm not sore at all. My energy levels are moderate, and my stress levels are moderate. This will give you a conditionally formatted look at how the athlete is doing. So obviously, if you're scrolling through, it's very easy to see green light, yellow light, or red light, how your athletes are doing in each week. Now, this data will also get tracked. So we will see the sum of the week, and we'll calculate an average here. And you can move that into the system when you're ready by clicking the copy button. So when you click the copy button, and currently it's going to track all of week 1 data, which is here, and we wouldn't want to do that until our athlete has done week 1's entries. We click the copy button, and then all of our data would end up in a raw data table for further analysis. Now, the other part of the athlete log is that it allows you to look at sessional load as well. So your athlete could go in after training, say, I am healthy, I trained for 120 minutes, and the RPE was 7. And then you could see that we're looking at total sessional load for the week as well. So this is the athlete log, and the setup screen allows you to categorize what is good and what is not. So these are our pre-written categories for what's good and what isn't. You can change the verbiage, so you could say, instead of stressed out, you could say that I'm crushed, right? Like things like this, and that will give you the lowest possible stress rating in that category. So you're welcome to change hydration guidelines per individual or to keep them as is for what we use here at the Strength Guys. So that's the setup screen. And once you're done all of that, you're going to go to the coach dashboard. When you're in the coach dashboard, you want to type in, or you want to make sure that you've entered in the start date as the Monday of the week that you are starting on. The reason why that's important is because, as you'll see, the calendar is now starting us on August 12th, which is a Monday. And so now we can plan training with a full year of dates starting from August 12th. Now, one of the helpful features about our coach dashboard is by typing in the equal sign and then clicking on the cell that we want to start off at. First is the cell that we want to set as our goal date. So let's say that our goal date is going to be the start of training camp. So we have 3.5 weeks to go. 3 weeks out, 2 weeks out, 1 week out, and then you could just see half a week out. That allows you to plan in the cells below. So you can merge these and say this is going to be ESD and power focus training. You could describe what you are going to do in the blocks below. So for subphase, what we would usually do is type in the rep range. So I would format the cell as text, and I would say we're going to be training at 3 to 5 reps. Or for powerlifting, I would say 5-3. From that, I know how many reps I'm going to be doing on day 1, how many reps I'm going to be doing on day 3, and I can interpret that very easily. We'll say 3 times per week training frequency. For powerlifting, you could do 3x, right? So you're going to train each lift 3 times a week. It's flexible. Our movement focus will be hills. Nutrition focus, if you do nutrition with your athlete, you could say maybe average 0.5% decrease during that time frame. And then you can go in and you can code in what your volume's going to look like. So we're going to do high volume, and then the week before camp, we're going to taper them. And the intensity is going to be high as well, because we're getting them right ready to go during the hardest part of their preparation for the next season. And as you'll see, it'll give you a schematic of what everything looks like below. So this is what you need to know from a base standpoint about the coach dashboard. After we write a week of programming, we'll come back down and I'll show you how all of this stuff works. So, and before we do that, we want to make sure that we enter in our 1-rep maxes. So for the sake of simplicity, and I recommend that you do this in pounds. You could do it in kilos, whatever you like. But for the sake of simplicity, we'll go 315, 225, 405. For push press, we'll do 175. Trap bar deadlift, 455. And hang clean, we'll do, let's say, 185. You'll see that all of these values will pop up on each training sheet. That could be helpful because when you're out on the floor, you'll be able to quickly refer to what their 1 rep max is in case the athlete hit a personal best or what have you. So when writing a program, what you can do is you can copy out the sheets that are listed. So we have an intro template, a build template, an attack template, and a recover template. And these templates are color coded. So an intro template is obviously going to be an introductory week into your program. In this week, generally volume is not going to be as high as a build week or an attack week, which would be the hardest week of your program. It's going to be the start point. A build week is going to be a transitional week into the highest volume or highest intensity week of your program. And then a recover week is going to be a deload or a taper. Now, by merging cells together by holding the shift key and starting on the leftmost or the rightmost cell and clicking at the end of the range of cells sheets that you want to modify all together, you see that we've grouped our sheets, and it will say group up here. Now, anything that I type in here is going to populate on all sheets of my workbook within the group range. So we'll write in, and we'll just make that warm up. Change the font size so that fits. This is the nomenclature which we use at the strength guys. And we'll say an A. Sets will go X. RP should be 1 to 5. Now for the actual work sets, let's say that we're going to do 4 sets of 6. And we'll do these with 3 to 5 minutes rest. And we'll do these at, let's go 70%. You see that it will automatically populate. Now, the format column will allow you to shade in dark rows, which are odd numbers, based on listing random numbers in the sheet. And it will also allow you to make a day start and end whenever you like. So for example, I could type day 2 here, and then our next day will begin below. Or, I can copy those cells back. Let's say I had a really long workout. I could make day 2 start here, and I can continue writing my day out. Your workouts can be as short or as long as you need. So for this sake, we'll do that. Now, I'm just going to copy and paste this out quickly. We'll change our tempos. And we're only going to do 1 day for the sake of brevity in this demo. Now we're going to add a rep, and then we will add another rep, and let's add 2.5%. And then in our taper week, let's say that we're going to do 70% for half the volume. Group our sheets back together, enter in the 1RM, we'll enter in the name of the athlete, and here's our program. You'll see that check marks populate whenever an exercise is being tracked in the system. Exercises are tracked in the system via formulas which automatically detect when an exercise is back squat, bench press, deadlift, or it's in that column in the exercise index, which was mentioned at the start of the video. and it will track as such. As for the secondary analysis, whenever an exercise is classified as a push-up or an overhead press, we will track the number of lifts. If you go into the training journal, maybe you're on the floor with a client, you could say that they actually did 6 sets at 300 pounds. And then we will actually track the absolute volume instead of the predicted volume. This training journal section will do that. So if you want absolute volume of a secondary lift, all you have to do is enter it in to the training journal section, which is just to the right of the program. It will also detect the number of lifts you did. It will multiply that by the highest RPE prescribed on that exercise if you prescribed a range. So for example, it would multiply it by 5 on the warm-up. Obviously, we don't have reps in there, so it's not going to calculate any number of lifts. But if we did, it would go 5 times 5, and that would be our relative volume. And then it will also track the frequency of days that you trained it. And then the same kind of system works for our plyometric monitoring. Now, down below, we have a row of gathered data with the date, the number of lifts, relative intensity, so on and so forth. We'll say our title for this week is set as for this phase is preparatory phase. And then we'll also have the title of the program. Now, when I'm done with this program and I'm happy with the phase, I'm going to go to the coach dashboard and I'm going to click the update button. And when I click the update button, it's going to copy the data from that row into my raw data table. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to click it 4 times because I'm done my first phase of training. So now if I go to the raw data table, you'll see that all my training data is neatly organized and I can come in here and do my analysis. There's a few other places in the workbook where we can begin to conduct database training from this analysis. The first part is down here. It'll show you the relative intensity you did in the week that you hit peak volume or the highest volume on that exercise. And then it will show you what your current volume is in this week of training. So in our recover week, we did 1,400 pounds of volume. Our peak volume was in our attack week, where we did 3,280 pounds of volume. So you'll be able to see where your metrics are. So this is our relative intensity this week, this is our current volume, and this is the peak volume. Same for bench and for deadlift as well. You can also see that based off of our modified volume formula, which is number of lifts times RPE times 10 for our secondary monitoring exercises. So the reason why this is helpful is if you wanted to use, let's say that I did 5,000 pounds of overhead press, and that was the most amount of volume I had done in my life in a week of training on that lift. And if I wanted to use that as a landmark for what I should do to continue to overload my system, I might go, what is a 5% increase from 5,000 pounds? And then I'd say, okay, so I have to add another set or another 2 reps to each existing set in my program so that I can increase my volume by 250 pounds. That'll give me an overload based on my peak volume and put me up to 5,250 pounds of volume. Or, if you wanted to taper off of that metric, you could say, okay, I'm going to do 2,500 pounds of volume instead of 5,000. And that's going to cut my volume in half and allow my athlete to recover while keeping a training stimulus in. And it's like that for each exercise in here. It will also tell you the peak volume and current volume in your movement categories. So, or if you're looking at training bodybuilders or what have you, your muscle groups. So it will tell you all of that down here. Um, so we wrote a very abbreviated program, and let's say that this is all we wrote for this program. So beneath the row, where I typed in day 2, I'm going to type in blank, and that creates my blank space. Next, I'm going to copy and paste our RPE chart. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. There we go. I'm going to copy and paste our RPE chart and paste it in cell 47. In order to complete the formatting of a week of training, we always like to leave the RPE chart at the bottom and then a notes section where the athlete can write in or the coach can write in the blank space. We also have a space for the training journal and a process-oriented goals section so that you can communicate with the athlete a bit on what they're looking to get out of it. And then lastly, we have a general warm-up section down here. So this is what a program would look like. If you want to save it as a PDF, you go File, Save As, PDF, Sheet, and then just save it on your desktop. So I'd say Jason Tremblay, Phase 1, and that would be good. If I want to print all of it at once, I can click Print, and I will be able to print all of these sheets off. That's how our phases work, and you could store 52 microcycles or 52 weeks of training within one document. So it's meant to hold up to a year's worth of data. Now, the final component of this sheet is that you can choose what you're going to analyze. So, for example, I can go through, and even though we didn't prescribe any sprinting, I could look at my squat volume, and I could look at my sprinting volume. And of course, you didn't prescribe any, so there is none. And let's say that I wanted to print this off and show it to the client, to show them what we were doing. It will print off, or it will save as one sheet as a PDF so that you can email it out and show people what you're doing. So that is almost all of the features of our athlete management system. The final notable feature is this section here. So if you want to look at what you did in microcycle 3 of the program, you can go through and you can choose to look at either the absolute volume or the relative volume. And all of your metrics for that week will pop up right beside it. So this is our athlete management system. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Thank you for watching.